Okay, so I realize now that I should have really done this Facebook Live before the last one, but better late than never. So I really want to divide the entire real estate business in New York and really everywhere into three components. Now, um, I'm sorry if I keep moving this, but I can't hold this thing. I really got to find a stand for it. So the business in my mind goes into three components. A lot of people in this business divide it into two components. They divide it into acquisitions, getting a property, and dispositions, selling the property or either wholesaling the property or rehabbing the property. But I divide it really into three parts. So acquisitions to me is divided into two parts. There's marketing, which means getting prospects and turning them into leads, right? And I define a lead again as someone who's interested in selling a property, even if it's for a price that is too high for me to buy it right now. The second part of the business, second component, is sales conversion. So it is turning a lead into a deal, into a contract. And tomorrow's video is going to be all about that part of the business. And the third part, obviously, is disposition. So you have to decide. Now, these are all related to each other in the respect that if I don't know what I'm doing with the property, I don't know how I'm going to dispose of it. Dispose sounds terrible, right? What my disposition is going to be. It's hard for me to make an offer on it. So I'm going to talk a little about deciding how to dispose of a property in both tomorrow's video and the video after. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, I've been going on Facebook Live, recording these and then posting them to YouTube, as opposed to what I used to do, which was go on YouTube and then post them to Facebook. So let's talk about sales conversion, right? Converting a lead, someone who said they're interested in selling, into a contract that you can buy. And for me, I'm a licensed real estate broker, so I will also take listings. But most people that are in this business won't do that. Most people are not licensed, and they will not. But once you have someone who's interested in selling, your goal then is to really find out why they want to sell. And there is no tricking people. There is no taking advantage of people. It's really finding out if they have a deep enough pain, right? If keeping the property is causing them enough pain that you can solve their problem by buying it at usually at a discount, right? We buy properties at discounts, and that's how we make money on them. For a lot of people, when you tell them what you do as a real estate investor, they almost don't understand. Like, why would anybody sell you the property at a discount? And they don't understand that on a regular basis, about 10% of all properties throughout the United States are sold off market. They're not listed on multiple listing service, and they're sold because of some reason. Now, the most obvious reasons that I get all the time are that somebody had a bad experience with a realtor and they don't want to deal with realtors. Obviously, if there's a speed issue, they need to close quickly, or there's some kind of really incredible amount of pain. I had somebody who sold me their house because their child was arrested and they needed to put up bail, and that was their situation. Sometimes the property is costing them so much that they can't afford it. That happens a lot, right? Somebody gets relocated or somebody moves and they just cannot afford to keep this property. So those are situations where someone will not go through the traditional multiple listing service and list with a realtor because they need to sell it to an investor. And there are a lot of other reasons, believe me. People are embarrassed by the property. The condition of the property is terrible. And they just say, hey, I need to get rid of this without people coming to see it. That happens a lot too. So your job to convert that lead into a contract or into a deal is to really just figure out what they need and how you can help them. There's no hard closing. There's no hard selling. You're not trying to rip somebody off. What you're trying to do is to find out if they have a problem that you can solve. And if they do, if buying the property at a price that you can buy it at will solve that problem. That is your whole job. And the system that I use, and you really need a system if you want to be successful at it, I use a John Martinez system. He has a website called midwestrev.com, or what else is it called? REIsalesacademy.com. And it's a very, very counterintuitive system. It's not what you would think, right? You would think you would go there, you'd say, oh, I can close really fast, let's do this. But for most people, they don't, it's an extremely emotional transaction, right? They're selling their property. They may live in that property. They usually have an attachment to that property. They may have just inherited that property from someone. And the fact that they're speaking to you usually means there's some reason why they want to sell it. But you need to almost agitate their pain in so that they understand what problems and what pain this property is causing them. And when you do that, you can usually get them into a state where you can then make a offer to them that is at a deep enough discount that you can make money on it, but that still is worth it for them to sell it to you for whatever reason, right? Now, again, it could be a time-related reason. It takes a long time to sell a property on multiple listing service today. It does, right? It takes time for that buyer to find the property. It takes time for that buyer to get into contract, and it takes time for that buyer to usually to get financing, get a mortgage. So it's rare that if you list a property, you're going to have it sold with less than 90 days or even less than 120 days today. So sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's just that I need to sell it right away. Now, we don't realize that in New York, there's a huge difference between New York and the other 49 states. In New York, it takes longer. In other states, you can literally sell a property in a week. There's no seller's attorney involved. There's usually no buyer's attorney involved. There's just a title company involved. In New York, because of all these attorneys who charge a lot of money, they want to well, at least pretend to earn their legal fee. So it takes a lot longer. But in New York, like I said, the mindset is this is going to take a long time. That real estate is almost less liquid than in other states. But there are people who just need to get rid of it. They're fed up for whatever reason, and I meet them every week. So you don't want to be telling them, the intuitive way to approach the seller, you would think, would be like, hey, I can get rid of this for you right away. But that's not what they want to hear. You almost want to push them away, and you want to say, hey, do you want to list it with a realtor? Do you want to keep it? Maybe you want to rent it. You want to give them the alternatives. And people are afraid, if I tell the guy to list it, he's going to list it. There isn't a person alive who doesn't know about listing a property. You want to find out what's going on in their head. You want to find out if this is really going to be a deal for you. You want to find out if you can help them or not. And the way to do that is almost very counterintuitively to push them away and to say, listen, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if I want to buy this, but why don't you just list it? Why don't you just keep it? Why don't you just rent it? Give them those other options. Now, the system is much more complicated than that, but you want to take them almost on a journey, almost like a roller coaster. And then you want to tell them, well, let's say I can buy it. Let's say we come to an agreement on price. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go if they live there? Or how's it going to feel? You want to take them to like a picture perfect scenario where they really feel the emotion of getting rid of this pain. Now, again, if there isn't enough pain, you're probably not going to do a deal. If there isn't enough happiness when they sell the property as opposed to where they are now, you're probably not going to do a deal. But you want to take them on almost an emotional ride. What's it causing you now? And you'll get a very superficial answer. I just want to get rid of it. I've had enough of it. It's costing me too much. And you want to dig. And I believe I still struggle with this every seller appointment because it's hard. It's hard to go deeper. Well, when you say you can't afford it, what does that mean? When you say you want to get rid of it, what does that mean? And you want to really get into it and get into their emotions. And what do they feel? Go 2 or 3 levels deeper. And then when they tell you that and you find out that it means, they can help their mother or they can be a good parent to their children, that kind of thing. When you get to the real root of it, you almost want to take them on the other side and say, well, if we do come to an agreement and when you sell it, how's that going to feel? What's that going to be like? And you want them to get deeper also. Well, I'll feel amazing. Well, I'll be able to sleep at night. I won't have to worry about it. You want to get into both sides of this, the depth of their pain that keeping the property has and the heights of how they'll feel when they get rid of it. And when you take them on those and you repeat it and you say, listen, this is what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that this property is really costing you too much money. You're worried about not keeping a roof over your head, or you're worried about paying your basic bills. And if we do come to an agreement, you're going to feel like you can sleep at night and you feel like a better parent. You'll feel like a better spouse. When you get into really the depth of what's going on in their heads, at that point, price really isn't as important. And it's the basic metaphor of this is, if you just happen to go to CVS or a drugstore one day and you need a thermometer because your wife said, hey, pick up a thermometer, the last one broke. You might spend 10 minutes looking at all the thermometers and say, this is cheaper, this is more expensive, and you may end up with the cheapest one. But if your kid is sick and the doctor says, I need to know what the temperature is because they may need to come to the hospital, when you go to the drugstore, you're not looking at prices, you're just buying, because the pain that's there involved in feeling like you have to help your child makes the price irrelevant. And you want to take a lead who's looking to sell through that emotional journey from where they are, and if it's really problematic and it's causing them pain, to where it's going to be when they finally sell the property. And you want to take them back and forth, and then price becomes less of an issue. So that's really the system for taking people. And like I said, it's counterintuitive, because most people out there in the business just call up and say, I can close in 2 hours, all cash, that kind of thing. For some people, the only reason that they're selling to an investor is because they are afraid that someone's going to come buy this property and they don't have any place to go. I bought multiple properties from people who told me the only reason I went to you is because everybody else told me they would close fast. And you're the one who said, and this is what I say to every seller, I'll close whenever it works for you. That can be in 2 weeks, and that can be in a year. I'll wait. And for some people, they don't have a place to go. They need to sell the place that they live in, and they just want somebody who's going to say, I'll go to contract with you now, and I'll wait until you find the place. That comfort, knowing that security of knowing that they're not going to get kicked out. Because let's face it, if you're dealing with a regular retail sale, if you list a property on multiple listing and you find a buyer, and that buyer's got a great price, but that buyer says, I need to get my kids into school and I need to be in that house by a certain date, you only have a certain amount of time that you can push that off legally. So it's important to understand that the conversion process from a lead to a contract is an emotional decision. We all think that we can give them facts. Well, your price is too high, and look at this comp, and look at that. It's an emotional decision. People make decisions emotionally, and then they justify it with facts. That's how we all work. Like in the example I gave you with the thermometer in CVS or the drugstore, if you'll spend $100 on a thermometer if it's to figure out if your kid needs to go to the hospital or not. But if you don't care and your wife just told you to get it and you can wait, then you'll never spend $100 on a thermometer, right? You might spend $5 on a thermometer. You might go to Amazon and get it and wait 2 months. So it's an emotional journey that you want to take the lead on from where they are and understanding if there's deep pain and problems with it, to a picture perfect scenario where they're going to be happy. And then they can make a decision based on what's important to them. Again, you're never taking advantage of a seller. You're never hard closing somebody. You're never hurting somebody. You're helping them. But it's important for them to understand where they are with keeping the property, as opposed to where they'll be if they sell the property to someone like me or another investor who is going to take problems off their hands quickly. Again, sometimes time isn't an issue, sometimes it is, or in a way that solves their problem. So that is the conversion process from a lead to a contract or to a deal. And I was supposed to do that in the next video. I'm sorry, I screwed it up, but I did it. That is the conversion process. So that's the second component of the business. The business is marketing, getting leads. A second is sales conversion, so converting a lead to a deal. And the third is disposition. So tomorrow we're going to talk about disposition. So what to do with the property. Now, obviously that's related to the offer you make to the seller, because if you are wholetailing it, which we'll talk about more, or wholesaling it, which we'll talk about more tomorrow, or you're going to rehab the property, that's going to affect the price you pay. So we're going to deal with that tomorrow, which is dispositions, which is disposing of the property and getting paid and getting paid on it. Thank you very, very much.